And we're going to spend the next couple of segments talking about Biden's first 100 days. Today's focus, the COVID pandemic. In his first few weeks in office, the president has taken executive action on a litany of issues as he tries to unwind many of the prior administration's policies. Biden has made moves when it comes to climate change, LGBTQ rights, racial equality, immigration, healthcare, and the list goes on and on. Now, when it comes to sheer numbers, COVID and the economic devastation that it's caused, it's resulted in the largest number of executive actions taken by the new president. Take a look at the graphic on your screen. It is just an abridged list, but as you can see, the president is focusing on stamping out the virus, but also trying to lift up people who have been crushed financially by ramping up things like food stamps and also putting foreclosures and evictions on hold. And that is just the abridged version. But the president, he's also relying on his nearly $2 trillion stimulus plan to do the heavy lifting when it comes to economic relief. Now, this package includes everything that you see again on your screen and more, including $1,400 stimulus checks, desperately needed money for states and cities, increased jobless benefits, and money to help reopen our schools. Biden is trying to get some Republicans to come on board, but so far it's not happening. And the president says Democrats, they can get this done early next month with or without the GOP side's help. Now, I want to bring in our guest, Congressman Tony Cárdenas. He's a Democrat, and he comes from California. You know, Congressman, everybody talks about things like the first 100 days, stimulus, negotiating back and forth about what's going to be in the final package and the amount. Can you do a favor for our audience and give an idea from your constituents, the calls you're getting to your offices, just how many people are on that razor's edge where if help doesn't come, real help real soon, they're going to be in a really bad place?
Yes, I'm getting a lot of calls in my office, and they go something like this. When can I get some help? I haven't been able to pay my rent. My husband works for a restaurant, and I still am working, but they cut my hours back. So people are looking at living off of 30, 40, 50% of what they normally were living on. And so they're having a hard time making ends meet, putting food on the table. So getting another $1,400 check to the people in my district is going to be critical and crucial for them to be able to eat, for them to be able to keep a roof over their head, and for them to have their anxiety and stress go down.
I understand how Washington works or doesn't work at times, and I understand the political divisions. But I don't understand, Congressman. I've seen some governors from some of the rubiest red states you're going to find, like West Virginia, saying, get the stimulus money out the door, get it in my people's hands. We desperately need state aid here. We're hemorrhaging money. Only Washington can do the trick. I don't get where the political divide is, given that this is an equal opportunity pain in terms of what COVID has done for this country. Why is there so much opposition from the right?
Well, I think that the main opposition when it comes to getting this $1.9 trillion package to save our local governments, to make sure that they don't start laying off firefighters and nurses and doctors and making sure that they have the money to fit their budget. Those governors are right. We, the federal government, are the only government in America that can work with our budget and then deal with our budget and not have to balance it every 12 months like they do. So we are the big player here. We are the ones that can actually save American local communities, and we should do that. What's the fight? The fight is all of a sudden you got a bunch of conservative, a small handful of conservative representatives in the United States Senate and Congress that all of a sudden, when it comes to helping individual families, they get fiscally conservative and they say, no, 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 that's way too much money. I'm sorry. People need to eat. People need to keep putting food on the table. And without this money, they're going to be in big trouble.
And I should just note here, even before we even learned the word COVID, we were running $1 trillion annual deficits out of Washington. Now, all of a sudden, we have fiscal prudence. But anyway, go back again to your district, because in many ways, in L.A., it's almost ground zero for COVID. And put it in context of, first off, just how bad the situation is and how overrun so many people that are on the front lines here, what they're seeing right now in these hospitals, and also the inequities. Why is it, particularly in Latin populations, that you can see double, if not triple, the positivity rates, but it's so hard to come by these vaccines?
Well, great that you bring up Los Angeles, where I represent. About 50% of the population in Los Angeles is Latino, and a large percentage of the overall population in Los Angeles are immigrants. People who come to this country are just grateful to be able to have a job, grateful to be able to be here, and they get pushed around a little bit more by their employers sometimes because they know that if they are fired by their employer, it's going to be really hard for them to get another job. So what do? They put up with conditions that aren't fair. They put up with conditions and say, well, maybe I should be given a mask, but my employer doesn't want to give me one, so I'm going to use a scarf. And then that leads to more people being infected, more people being forced to put themselves in a dangerous situation. And Los Angeles, on the other side of the coin, we are using up resources far, far faster than they can come in. The city of LA, for example, they are having vaccination sites, they're having testing sites at the cost of the city of Los Angeles. The county of LA is doing their part as well. It's right on their plate, the county, to do the job. But the city realizes that our constituents too, so they're footing the bill, hoping and praying that eventually the federal government will reimburse them for those hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that they've already spent. And now it's getting to the billions of dollars that they've spent, and they really need to replenish their coffers. Otherwise, they're going to have to start laying off firefighters, police officers. They're going to have to be laying off first responders.
We talk about 100 days being an important yardstick for any new administration. What's your gut tell you, Congressman, in terms of what's going to come through? I know we have a 50-50 split in the Senate. They're talking reconciliation if need be. It seems the Democratic leadership, and I don't know if the Mansions of the world are going to go along, get along, but it seems that they're willing, more so than in the past, to push the envelope to get done what comes out of the House. Do you share that confidence, or are you a little cynical that maybe they're going to back off in the 11th hour?
Well, I'm very confident that we're going to get the 51 votes necessary to get the budget reconciliation done. And I need to remind your listeners that the Republicans, when they were in charge of the Senate and the House, and they had the presidency all at one time, they went ahead and did the biggest tax cut ever in the history of the United States. It benefited the richest people in America. They did it under reconciliation. On top of that, they tried to end the most successful health program ever law in the United States history, the Affordable Care Act. They tried to end it. And that was that famous moment where you had a brave senator, may he rest in peace, actually gave the thumbs down, and then it did not cut off healthcare to tens and tens of millions of people. So they tried to use reconciliation to do things like that. What we're doing now in the United States Senate and through Congress to try to get it done through reconciliation isn't something that's never been done before. But in a situation like this, an emergency and dire situation, that's what we're going to have to do, because the Republicans are just not cooperating with us. But I feel confident that we'll have the 51 votes in the Senate to get it done.
Congressman, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
All right, folks, when we come back, an ER doctor on the front lines. He'll join us to discuss what he's seeing firsthand at the hospitals and whether or not we've broken the curve and things finally getting better, or the worst may still lie ahead.